Their lives for yours. Is that how it works?
Their lives meant nothing. No land, no riches, no titles. But my name will live on.
If your hell is real, I'm glad you'll get to see it.
So hi, it's the Sixth Wonder, and this is my review of Assassin Creed Valhalla. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a 2020 action role-playing game developed by Ubisoft. It's playable in Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Stadia, and PlayStation 5. It's another Assassin's Creed open-world game where the game is about the Viking expansion in the British Isles, and your main character is Eivor, who can be male or female depending on your choice. It's pretty much the same game where the tightropes that you use to cross structures still feel hard as steel because they just don't bend, and performing a leap of faith from 1,000 feet high will just cause a little splash that will get you just around 2 feet below water surface. On a serious note though, Valhalla is like an upgraded version of Odyssey, just like how people were saying that Odyssey was like the upgraded version of Origins. You can definitely see the improvements in how it looks. There are just more of almost everything, and you will quickly realize that when you've journeyed a bit and you take a quick peek on your map. The number of markers can grow really fast, and believe it or not, they just never felt like fillers to me, because there are just a lot of fun and interesting things to discover, which can be world events.
This is our private celebration of skin. We are open to all who strip.
Our clothes! Leave them! Stop it, baby!
You have carried out my revenge. Wonderful. Now they must revel in their nudeness forever.
Cool items, tough bosses, puzzles, and abilities too are now books of knowledge that you need to find in the game world instead of just learning them. So, just like Odyssey and Origins, you will be using your map a lot in this game to track things. And no, you are not required to do all of the activities to get through the game. So it's definitely okay to just do the activities that you like.
I would have let him down easy.
Follow me.
So same like the other Assassin's Creed games, you don't exactly have main companions. There might be 1 or 2 NPCs who will assist you in missions as part of a quest. And now you do have a Viking raiding crew, but you can only bring them when raiding villages. Otherwise, they won't stick around or will assist you in your missions. So if you have played the previous game, controlling the main character feels very much the same, with a few changes here and there. You can still sprint, but it still feels really slow. You can now perform a slide and trip enemies, which can be useful if only the controls would feel more responsive and would not feel like you're sliding in slow motion. You also still have a flying companion to survey your surroundings, and of course a horse for faster traveling. The main point of the game is still basically the same. You need to clear out camps, assassinate targets, and you're free to do that however you want. You can charge straight, or you can play like an assassin, sneaking and taking out enemies one at a time. You can be an archer too. I'm pretty sure those who are fond of using the bow and arrow will be happy, because now enemies have weak points that you can target, just like in Horizon Zero Dawn. And in melee combat, you will still dodge or parry. But a big change here is that now you have a stamina system, which will give even those who have played the previous game a difficult time, at least at first. In the previous game, all you need to worry about is timing when to dodge or counter. Here, you can't just mindlessly do it, because it will slowly deplete your stamina, and it can go pretty bad for you if you completely depleted your stamina, because that means you can't block unless you have a shield, you can't dodge, you can't even sprint away from your attacker, and you will be moving really slow until the gauge refills completely, which will basically make you a sitting duck waiting for enemies to hit you. So, is the combat difficult? Well, at first, yeah, but once you're used to it, it's very manageable. I actually found myself just charging straight to enemy camps most of the time instead of sneaking, because that is like the faster way to do it. And that is of course as long as you don't charge in places where the enemies are significantly stronger than you. And speaking of strong enemies, there are still zealots in the game that you have to fight, and I still find them very difficult, especially now because in the last two games I could kill zealots even early in the game. What I do is I just sneak attack them and then I run and hide and then sneak attack them again, and I basically repeat the process until they're dead. But here you can't do that because zealots here have the ability to recover their health, and if you leave the area they will recover their full health, while in battle they also have ways of recovering health. So you always have to be near them so that you can basically interrupt them when they try to do that. There are a lot of weapons and armors in the game, and most of them come in sets. You can equip different weapons on each hand. You can have a sword and shield, a short blade and great sword, or even go shield and shield if that's how you want to play. And each weapon type has their own pros and cons. Like, a big weapon is for sweeping strikes that hits multiple enemies, and it's basically good for crowd control, but it will be difficult for you to hit the fast moving ones. And of course the opposite, which are the short blades. They have great attack speed, which means you have a good accuracy, but the thing is you can only hit one enemy at a time, and it's not a good weapon to use when you're surrounded by enemies. But you can definitely switch weapons whenever you want. You don't actually have to stick to one weapon type throughout the whole game. However, once you get really good in controlling Eivor, it really doesn't matter that much. I personally had the most fun with two short blades because of how accurate I can be. But if you want to be an archer, if you want to carry two shields, if you want to carry two heavy weapons, then that's definitely fine. Once you get really good in timing your strikes, timing your dodges, or timing your parry, the game is not that difficult. Of course, again, unless you're fighting enemies that are far stronger than you. So anyway, speaking of enemies, there are a good variety of enemies. You have the fast ones who are hard to hit. You have the big ones that are difficult to stun. Of course, the archers, those that will set you on fire. There is also a good variety of animals too that will gladly attack you as well, like bears, wildcats, wolves, snakes, and even chickens will do their best to kill you sometimes. However, I really miss the crocodiles in Origins and the sharks in Odyssey, because here in Valhalla, swimming is totally safe, while in the previous game, swimming is not safe at all. One thing that I also miss are the ship battles in Odyssey, because there are no ship battles here in Valhalla. It's understandable considering the setting of the game, but I just really miss those ship battles because I just had a lot of fun when playing Odyssey. Anyway, when it comes to exploration, it's a very big open world and you are free to go wherever you want, just like Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey. But again, there are just more activities that you can do here. On your map, you have the yellow dots for treasures, white dots which can be interesting events that may end up as side quests. You have symbols for flying papers, which are basically how you increase the customization options of your Eivor, the hair, the tattoos. And then you have symbols for the drinking contest, for flighting.
Then I will spit in your face and I will bash in your skull.
Not bad, not bad.
For playing dice, synchronization points, zealots that you need to challenge and kill, fishing, and raiding villages. So when it comes to raiding villages, even if this is a Viking game where you have to raid villages, you won't feel so bad about it because you don't actually have to attack the villagers, and they won't actually fight back, they will just run away. And you also can't keep killing NPCs because that will desynchronize you. So when you raid villages or settlements, all you will need to fight are the soldiers. And then aside from raiding villages, you have puzzles too. So one big improvement from the previous game is customization. The one thing that I really hate about the Odyssey is that you can't even customize Cassandra or Alexios' hair, which for me was a massive downgrade because you can change Bayek's hairstyle in Origins. Here, I am very happy to say that you can do a lot of customization, but you still can't change the face, which is really fine because you can switch from male to female Eivor almost anytime in the game. You can change the hairstyle, the hair color. You can do the same with the beard. And to add to that, I like that you can hide the armor you have equipped. So if you don't want to look like a mythical fancy armored warrior and you want to just look like a barbarian, you can still definitely have good statistics by equipping any armor you want and just selecting the option to hide that armor. And this option is applicable to any of the armors you have equipped. So if you just want to hide your bracers, that's fine. If you just want to hide the cloak, or just a helmet, then that's definitely possible. So you can really change the appearance of your character in a lot of ways. Aside from Eivor, you can change the appearance of your Raven companion. You can also customize your horse too. And then another great improvement in the game is that now you have a base or town that you can develop. It's nothing complex really. All you really have to do is gather resources from raiding, which will be used for building the structures. The structures have their designated places, so you can't really choose where to build a certain structure. You just have to approach a white flag near a tent that's on that specific area, and if you have the needed resources for it, then the structure will just be built automatically. So as you build structures, you get access to merchants or people where you can trade special items. You can also create your own raiding crew, or you can even throw a feast which will boost your stats temporarily. The game also have a crafting system which is pretty much the same with how it was with the previous game, but with a minor change. Here you are limited as to how much you can level up an equipment at a given time. Once you've reached the item's current max level, you will need to have the item improved by a blacksmith first before you can level it up further. And when leveling up, you're still free however you want to build your Eivor, whether you want to go melee, range, or stealth. Personally, I just, pick whichever I like. I just try to be good in everything, and I did well. The game is not that difficult where you need to have a near perfect build to be effective. Just build the character however you like, and if you think you've made a mistake, you can reset your skill points, though I really doubt you'll need to do that unless you just really want to. You have your skill tree, which is basically divided into melee, range, and stealth. But what I like about this is that even if you focus most of your points on a single category, you can still build a viable character because, for example, if you focus on the melee skill tree, which is basically the red one, not all skills there are just for melee. You will still get skills that will enhance your defense, assassination damage, range damage, and so on. But again, take note that abilities are now books of knowledge that you have to find in the game world.
That's a bread knife, my lord. Do you mean to butter me?
Stay back! Back, I say! I'll fight you!
If you insist.
Questing is how you have it in most open world RPGs. The quests are categorized properly. You have your main quest, you have side quests, you have missions to help improve your town. I didn't really spend a lot of time on the quest menu. The only time I did was to activate the tracker for a quest because almost everything is on your world map, and most of the quest details are clearly given by NPCs. So there are very few quests in the game where you will have to really spend time on your quest menu to figure things out. Mostly the missions are quite short and simple, and for those that are not, most likely you will have an NPC companion who will guide you along the way. Some improvement I've noticed is that now there are a number of missions where you will investigate what's wrong, and just like Geralt from The Witcher, you will hear Eivor speak to give you clues, and then you can use your Odin sight to track your target. And now there are a few missions as well where the ending is you will have to decide who lives or who dies. What I really like about this is that mostly it's not clear who deserves to live or die. You just have to rely on the information you gathered and basically how you analyze those, and you just have to take your best bet and leave with the result. So, are the quests fun in this game? For me, honestly, they were okay. Even the side quests were okay. There were certainly some wow moments, and a number of them were quite fun, but nothing that are really extremely memorable. When it comes to graphics, the game looks pretty. I will have to compare this to Assassin's Creed Odyssey again because it does look like Odyssey, but a much improved version. Valhalla has much more detail. Of course, it's a newer game, so it's more colorful, it's a lot more pleasing to the eyes, and the detail on the main character faces is just astonishing. And then here are presets of the graphic options just so that you will know what to expect if in case your hardware can't run the game in max settings. Now, I know these are not accurate representations because the quality was affected when the game was recorded and when this video was uploaded here in YouTube, but I hope at least this gives you an idea on what to expect. Just like how the looks of the game is very much the same, so are the animation, whether that's the basic character movements or in combat, or whether you use your skills, it's really not that different from the previous game. Which is fine because they don't feel old at all. Of course, Odyssey was just released a few years ago. As for the sound in this game, I like the ones in Odyssey better, but of course it's a matter of preference. Sound effects are mostly the same as well, or if there are changes, they are hardly noticeable. In terms of voice acting, if majority of the people were saying that Cassandra was done better than Alexios in Odyssey, to which I really actually agree because it's quite noticeable. Here, I honestly think that both the male and female Eivors were done pretty well. It's just more of a matter of your preference. So me personally, I played the male Eivor just because I feel like more of a Viking, which is probably because of the influence of the Viking TV series. But again, no need to worry which Eivor to play because you can always switch them when you want to.
Cruelly killed, yet from whose bones and blood and brains the world was made, the world you walk and war upon.
So for the main story, I just really can't say that it's good because at best it's just okay. The intro of the game will show you what happened to Eivor's childhood, why he had earned the alias Wolfkiss. After the intro, you will start the game controlling a grown Eivor, where he or she will help his or her brother Sigurd in leaving Norway and invading and settling in England. And that is what you will do. You have a map where you can choose to commit to an area one at a time until you are able to build an alliance with the ruler of that area. And because as a newcomer, you will need allies in order for your people to survive. And that's basically the gist of the story. In all honesty, the main story wasn't really that interesting for me. In fact, while I was playing the game, all I can remember that I was supposed to do that's related to the main story was build alliances. In other games like this, you have your main story, whether that's focused on a character or group or the game world, and then the building alliance or conquering places mechanics is just like a secondary motivation to play the game. Here it's mainly all about building alliances. Of course, there's Eivor's and Sigurd's visions, which I think were interesting. Then there's the side story about the gods, which I really love. And the game also introduced the hidden ones. But all of these honestly felt like just side stories instead of taking the center stage. As an RPG guy, I am a story first and gameplay next kind of player. Of course, if I can have both at the same level of goodness, then that's the perfect scenario for me. But if not, and if I have to choose, then I always give more importance to the story than the gameplay. Of course, as long as the gameplay is not extremely bad. So does that mean that the game is just okay for me just because the story is just okay? That's a big no because I really had a great time. I've always been a big fan of the gameplay of Assassin's Creed games, and that's all of them from the very first one to the recent ones that have become open world games. Even if the story in this game was mostly not interesting for me, there are a number of good characters in the game that really made me care. So yeah, I did keep playing and finish the game, and the funny thing was, I didn't even realize that I already finished the last main quest of the game. In more than 2 decades, I have been playing RPGs. This is the very first time that this happened to me, where I was not aware at all that I already finished the story. The ending was not what I was expecting at all. It was for me really flat. I'm not a history person, so I don't know how accurate the game is when it comes to it, but I was just hoping for that great grand battle or, just something very memorable at the end that will just put that big exclamation mark in the gaming experience. Well, there is something like that, but the mission felt like a prelude to something bigger, and if that was the case, then I would probably be telling you right now how satisfied I am. But since that specific mission that I was referring to was actually the last one, well, I was just really underwhelmed. At least the revelations and conclusion to Eivor's and Sigurd's story, no matter which ending you got, were definitely okay. And if I never mentioned Abstergo or Layla or what happened in the current world, well, it's just that I'm really not a big fan of it all. I was not a fan of it when I played the very first Assassin's Creed game, as strange as that may sound, and I'm still not a fan of it now on this new game. But I'm happy to say that there is really some good stuff at the end of the game that's related to that storyline. So, at this point, you probably heard me plenty of times compare this game to the previous one, and that's basically my point. This game doesn't feel new at all. What it feels like is a much improved version of Odyssey, just like how Odyssey was for Origins. But for those who have been playing the Assassin's Creed games since the very first one, you probably know this already or have been expecting it. I mean, this is understandably what happens when a game is released every year or two. However, I am very confident to suggest this game to anyone who love role-playing games because there are just a lot of things that you can do in this game. If you're looking for an escape from reality, probably you're tired of your job or you just want to immerse yourself in a game world, this is just one that I think you will really like and have a lot of fun messing around. But if you're looking for an epic story in an RPG game, I respectfully think that this game doesn't have it. But I'm pretty sure you will still have a great time because Eivor is such a relatable character. Personally, I just really cared about all the hardships he had to endure, the difficult decisions he or she has to make, and all the things he had to adapt to just to become a better leader. And having a main character like Eivor is always a big plus for me. I would love to see an entirely new game on the next installment, but if we get another one like this, which is just another improved version, then I wouldn't mind at all because I just had a great time. So if you love RPGs, give this one a try and I hope you'll have fun.